For today, and we know that in the past few weeks we've seen passionate debate on the 2023 Kenya Finance Bill. There's been a mix of rage, fury, and some enthusiasm in all public spaces occupied by Kenyans, both at home and abroad. Now, a contentious 3% housing levy, a 15% digital tax on content creators, and increased payroll taxes amongst a raft of other provisions that led Kenyans to street protests. Now, in studio tonight to help us get a bird's eye view from the ground is the chairman of Technology Service Providers of Kenya, TESPOK, Mr. HILARY ITELA. Now, Mr. ITELA is also the director of Secure Logistics G4S Kenya. He's a former director at the Kenya Rugby Union, and he will be talking Kenyan rugby later in the show. He's also an alumni of the great school, the Lenana School, Changes, aka Congress for Highly Advanced National Girls Entertainment Zone. But that's a story for another day. Now, Hilary's ambition is to see Africa unlock its potential and lead the world in a digital revolution. And before we get started, or rather before we get to the 15% digital tax that's being imposed on online content creators, Bwana ITELA, karibu sana to the OneMicShow. Karibu to the US.
Asante sana. Barely in for what, 12 hours, and glad that this is the first stop that I've been invited to.
Okay.
Really honored.
So you've not even spent a night in the US?
Bado hata ile usingizi ya Kenya ndio bado ninayo.
Bado uko na vumbi ya sio kimau?
Yes, kimau.
Ama rongai?
Tuseme the last 6 months in Kenya have been a blitz, from Pastor Mackenzie to Pastor Ezekiel.
Where?
To Zakayo mtoza ushuru na kadhalika. So let's just say being a Kenyan is a very interesting period. Zakayo mtoza ushuru.
Okay, that's an interesting one. That's an interesting one.
Me, I would have fired these chaps as Kenyans. If it was me.
Walisema anaitwa mtukutu lais.
Yes.
Mtukufu lais.
Si mtukufu, ni mtukutu.
Oh, mtukutu. Okay. Okay. But you know, in Kenya, there's always action. You know, like that day when you think today is going to be a slow day, there's never a slow day in Kenya. You know, like there's always something happening. So again, karibu sana, Hilary. What brings you to the US?
Well, I'm actually here to attend an ICON conference from Monday next week. I serve on the board of the Technology Service Providers of Kenya as a chairman. So TESPOK pretty much is a lobby group. TESPOK in full stands for Technology Service Providers in Kenya. So we've got about 300 members that basically span the length and breadth of the tech field in Kenya, right from telecommunications company, internet service providers, startups, guys who are in e-commerce. And what we basically do is to go around and create a stable platform where any organization that seeks to unlock their value does that within a system of regulated laws and statutory sort of links that do not necessarily make it break the backbone. So if you look at some of the things that TESPOK are currently championing, we're looking at the critical infrastructure bill. You'll notice that when people are making roads, if their way bills, if their way leaves rather for Kenya Power, Kenya Pipeline, those are actually protected by law. But if you actually have fiber cabling and whatnot, those are not quite protected. And this is infrastructure that has actually been laid in to a great tune of millions of dollars. So we try to go around and ensure that the various legislative houses go around and consider this infrastructure and ensure that there's some compensation the need may probably require. We also look at, issues on taxation. For instance, if you're looking at people who actually go around and unlock business value by selling on the internet, how the finance bill will potentially go around and affect them, just so that you can ensure that if you're looking at trying to get a vibrant and thriving economy, you don't have that being negated by taxation. And the finance bill in this particular instance is one of the things that as an organization we are quite wary about, and trying to ensure we can actually have some level of dialogue with the government to ensure that we do not actually go around and throw the baby in the bathwater.
Now, this is so interesting. I wasn't even aware that that fiber optic cable or internet infrastructure is not considered critical infrastructure in Kenya. That is quite interesting, and that's actually a very big risk. Like when you think about even being there as a foreign investor, because critical infrastructure has that extra protection provided by law, in the cases of where a road is being built or, like a new development is being built, there's some protection that you get. So that's something new that I'm learning. quite interesting. And I'm sure you've also been following closely the conversation around the 15% withholding tax that the finance bill once imposed on online content creator. Now, the question is, does this issue of a digital tax fall under TESPOK's jurisdiction in as far as engaging the government, or does TESPOK strictly deal with technology service providers?
So, well, a bulk of our members are technology service providers. Interestingly, within the last year or so, we've had two very interesting members joining the membership of TESPOK. That's Kenya Power and Kenya Pipeline, because they also realize that there are various, synergetic sort of activities that they can potentially go around and indulge within the TESPOK ambit. Maybe not necessarily on trying to lobby because they are government parastatals, but they also then realize that there are conversations within TESPOK that could allow them to unlock value. If you look at the digital superhighway, the very big, hairy, audacious goal that has been placed by the ICT ministry, talking towards rolling out 100,000 kilometers of last mile fiber. People like Kenya Power and Kenya Pipeline realize that they then have the infrastructure that will be able to probably support onto that, but they don't have the technical know-how. So they get onto TESPOK, they try and understand how they can actually, get some level of synergies with some of the members. So it's a win-win for everyone. But a bulk of what the members, particularly within the private sector, who are members of TESPOK, look towards to is to try and lobby the government to get to understand exactly the sort of challenges that they're having, and to try and actually get them to have some level of voice of reason from a different sort of segment to get them to understand that even as they're legislating, they're potentially going to go around and hurt the economy to a great extent.
Wow, this is so interesting. This is Lenana School that's talking here.
I had Maneno in there somewhere.
Mr. Maneno.
Yeah, I had Maneno's apples, and then Owuor was Apple just in the background.
Okay.
Sorry, Carbon.
Yeah.
You was Apple too. No, umesikia vile ameweka hiyo presentation kama alikuwa anasoma kwa PowerPoint.
Yes.